Oh boy, I forgot to retweet. Whoopsie. Share, share, share. Let's go, Red Diver. Nice. Sorry, guys. I like legit needed to get my pulse rap in. Getting old. I gotta keep up with it. All right, welcome to Inside the Numbers because it's Friday with the People's Pundit. Don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them and share them far and wide. Share, 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 share. If you're on YouTube, it'd be great if you could mosey on over to Rumble. Do the same thing there. Subscribe, like, share. You got it. But of course, the best place to follow us is right there. peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com. And I'm going to go off topic a little bit here. I want to stick to it as much as possible. It's just something that I was working on before doing the show today. Outside of the show is the election in New Jersey that is coming up. All right. Looks like Jack will have some, or Citarelli will have support that he did not have in the past, in the last election, when he basically just got in his car, drove up and down Route 9, shaking hands, from Red Bank to the Region Diner, and damn near won the election like that, without any help from the RGA, without any data targeting, a couple of polls from Tony Fabrizio here and there. Which turned out to be much more accurate, by the way, than the public polling. However, except for Robert Cahaley, who nailed it, who did a fantastic job showing that Citarelli really was on Murphy's butt. All right. But now it's a new world. Now the president is popular. Now the president is popular in what I would call the next firewall states for Democrats in the mid-Atlantic. Because, of course, for a long time, we always considered Pennsylvania part of the Rust Belt, but really, it is the mid-Atlantic, all right? It is Rust Belt by nature on some some regions in 50-plus counties in Pennsylvania, Appalachia counties. It's easy to get lobbed in there. But in truth, the tri-state area, otherwise known as the mid-Atlantic in the census division, is New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania has fallen. All right. Pennsylvania is going in the wrong direction for Democrats. People like John Fetterman know it. That is why you see Democrats in the state of Pennsylvania trying to moderate, where you really don't see that anywhere else, right? I don't know. We'll see how well that's going to work. Republicans have an uncanny ability to screw themselves and snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. But Trump is president right now. So look, the election in New Jersey is a long way to go. But Donald Trump came very close to Kamala Harris in the state of New Jersey. Recent polling suggests that he is positive in the state of New Jersey. I believe it because I can see what our mid-Atlantic regional numbers look like in the basically consistent tracking polling that we've been doing nationally, whether you guys have seen it publicly or not. And there's something else we've been doing too, which is tracking sentiment among different things, economic, among political, right? About different issues. And what I think smart about the Trump strategy is something that I heard Scott say on CNN yesterday, and he's 100% true. And it's funny because everybody I have spoken with in and around that orbit seem to understand. I don't think they're messaging it correctly. I don't. I think the White House could be doing a lot better with messaging. But they are taking 80-20 issues and they're running with them. And they are forcing Democrats to be the 20%. And it's smart. It's just that I don't think, how could I say this without inevitably insulting someone? I don't think the White House has a number of people who are particularly good at keeping their pulse on the correct voter. And these voters now are very different in demographics. It's not like 2017 anymore, where all you have to care about is the white working class in the Ohio River Valley. It is very, very, very different. And some of them are going to be able to be pushed a little bit harder than others. And we are seeing his approval take a hit. However, it's still positive. It's still, by historical standards for Trump, extremely strong. It's just that it's not plus 18 anymore. And as you would expect it, I mean, he was plus 18. That was the high during the honeymoon period in our polling. And I don't care what anybody else's polling shows. I really don't. I don't care. When you get 1/10 of a percentage point away off the actual result, then come talk to me. Until then, I don't give a shit what you have. All right. All right. So why does all of this matter? Because I'm looking at the state of New Jersey, and I told you we've been running some sims, and there's some other stuff we've been doing as well. And that is basically the same thing we did in the Rust Belt and the Mid-Atlantic state of Pennsylvania. We lumped ourselves in with the Rust Belt because we knew it would be a competitive state. And that is take a look at the voter profiles and the consumer profiles, which means people who are not on the voter file. Okay, they're not registered to vote, even though they recently instituted auto voter registration. And there are a lot of similarities, and there are a lot of Republican, especially Trumpian targets. And there are a lot of orphaned, traditionally Democratic groups that are not Democratic anymore, or at least not for Trump. And that's going to be the hurdle here. Laura and I saw it. Went to her cousin's wedding, as I have told you before, over the summer, and I saw it with my own eyes, so I knew it was real. But I could see these people outside for Trump, but also if you drove into their neighborhoods, you would see many of them still with the Democratic congressman sign or woman sign in their yard. And it was, a telltale, or I would even say a canary in the coal mine for Republicans, which we talked about incessantly. And lo and behold, they ran behind Trump in a lot of places. So tracking sentiment with these people moving forward and how they're going to vote is very important, because as it turns out, at least in the Trump era, and the only reason I can make this statement and then add a caveat is because we really don't have any other indicators outside of Gallup that suggests that we are in fact right, although Gallup's very strong, and Barnes and I argued this before the election. Government data is not going to tell us much. It didn't tell us much going into the election, and it's not going to tell us much moving forward about how these people are going to vote. We simply cannot, and this is sad to say, but it's true, and we're going to go over it. We simply cannot trust the government to give us sound data that we can then use in the empirical record to cross with the empirical record and make predictions based on that comparison. Why? Because once upon a time, they gave us sound data. Now they don't. When Donald Trump was first elected, and many of you watching probably don't know this, when Donald Trump was first elected, the Bureau of Economic Analysis proceeded to start revising a report called Personal Income and Outlays. And in it, they didn't revise a few months. They revised almost 2 full years of Obama's final term in the White House. And as it turns out, wage growth was nothing like they suggested it was. And they were suggesting that it was not even that strong. It was terrible. And at the end of the day, I think the first 9 months of Donald Trump's economic policies being in place, the first 9 months saw like 90+% increase in growth. It's disgusting. It's on PPD if you guys want to look at it, but it's disgusting. And in part is because the Bureau of Economic Analysis was not telling us the truth. It's not a matter of visions. They're liars. Charles Payne and I at Fox Business during the Trump administration, the first Trump administration, caught them in a lie and caught them doing something extremely, extremely deceitful, deceptive, right? And that is how they changed how they reported GDP. Why? Well, they decided they were going to give an alternative measurement for GDP, so the annual GDP growth rate would come in under than 3%. And it was like, guys, they moved heaven and earth to make it 2.9. If you go back and look at all other reported GDP growth before that, you will see that they used the traditional average gauge, all right? Not fourth quarter over fourth quarter, all right? So why? Every time we would go back and we would look at Obama, Q1, Q4, averaged out, that's it. Why did they do this? Because they didn't want the American public to know that Donald Trump just kept his promise of 3% GDP growth. It's that simple. The New York Post caught them lying and fudging data going into the 2012 election. The monthly jobs report that was released right before the election showed that unemployment had fallen below 7%. Why did that matter? Even though it really didn't, right? Why did it matter? It mattered because the headline at the time was that historically, no president had ever been reelected with an unemployment rate at or above 7%. George Herbert Walker Bush was being used as a comparison because Bill Clinton, of course, beat him in 1992. It drops to like 6.8 or something like that. And Mitt Romney's defeated. Barack Obama goes on to serve a second term. And as it turns out, unemployment did not fall below 7%. The New York Post then ran an exclusive with government employees off the record, but nonetheless, a government employee is telling them that they fudged those numbers to skew that narrative to be pro-Obama. All right. Going into this election, a lot of people were already on. Look, it's a different world. There's alternative media. There are those of us out there that watch and track this stuff and provide Americans with different sources of information. And it was already for 4 years a known story that the government was lying to you about how many jobs were being created. And then they were revising downward these numbers, not 1 month after, not 2 months after, but ridiculous over a 12-month period, ridiculous percentages of time that those revisions were downward revisions. So something people who have been doing this, speaking of Charles Payne, he knows what I'm talking about. He's been a reporter in the financial media for many, many years. He knows the same thing, which is that we don't see these downward results. You know what the odds are, folks, that for the last several years, 10 out of 12 months are revised down, or 9 out of 12 months? Or do you have any idea what the odds are that a supposedly random sample household survey is going to consistently overstate job creation? Folks, I'm not even going to entertain it. All right. It's not the case. The case is they consistently lied to you to make the jobs market, labor market look stronger, it sounds stronger than it actually was. All right. So we're getting now our first jobs report under the Trump administration. You can see the civilian unemployment rate did in fact fall. All right. I'm going to read you a couple of things and then I'm going to talk to you about why I'm tying this all together. Okay. Gallup was alone before the the voter confidence index conducted by us. We now have newer data too from Rasmussen. They've been doing it a while. If you take us, Rasmussen, because you can't take the media pollsters, unfortunately, they're not trustworthy. But if you take us, Rasmussen, and Gallup, even though they're on the dole with USAID, if you take us and you look at the recent history that we have, Gallup goes back a lot longer, obviously. You will see that especially in the Trump era, the sentiment, voter sentiment, how voters perceive the economy to be, was more predictive to the outcome of elections. And by the way, policies that they supported. There's a lot that we can infer, and we're not done looking at this yet, so I don't want to jump too far ahead of myself. But we could maybe start to actually predict what policies voters are going to 100% stick with you on, even though you really are upsetting the apple cart. All right. Yeah, but again, that's the 80-20 approach, and I'm not going to get into that yet because that's premature. But when you look at the dates, which obviously most of it falls in the Trump era or just prior to the post-Trump era, you will see that sentiment is more predictive. Some of the economic data under Barack Obama was not good. And the economists and everybody, especially those on the right, were telling voters, that things are bad. They're real bad. However, maybe call it Keynesian economics, whatever it may be, or call it just a like for Barack Obama personally, voters were not conveying that level of pessimism to people like us who were studying sentiment. All right. And I would argue we got to be very careful with the Consumer Sentiment Index and the Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index. Why? One's done, the former's done by the University of Michigan, used to be Thomson Reuters, but it's University of Michigan. And the latter is conducted by the Conference Board, by actually hires Nielsen Analytics, same people for the ratings agencies. Why? Because they're not voters, right? This is an adult population. It's an adult sample. And there's been a lot of debate over whether or not we can use those alternative indexes and whether or not they have any predictive value. And this is the entire reason why we created the Register Voter Economic Confidence Index, which I have to rename because I don't like that at all. But it was just so plain of a name. There can be no confusion over what it is we are trying to do, what we are trying to accomplish. It's very simple. Why would we look at a population that may or may not vote? Why would we even bother looking at a population and having it influence our top lines and our trends when we know they're not registered to vote, right? Maybe they will, maybe some of them will, but then guess what? If we just stick in the registered voter universe, we're going to catch them anyway. So that is why we started that. And if you look at the predecessor to that we did, you look at Rasmussen's and Gallup's, the sentiment very clearly was more predictive than the actual government data. All right. And there's parts of that. I think there's value to the idea that sentiment matters more anyway, but I also think there's a darker side of it. And the darker side is we cannot rely on government data. And that's sad, but it's true. We live in a state. We live in a state that has an influence, a nation state, not a state, over too many media and information channels. Apparently, many of them are subsidized to be lying sons of, and the bureaucrats have forgotten anything that resembles an honor system. Okay. So I don't want to hear it. I don't care about this. These are people are heroes. This person's civil servant. This one's a model civil servant. That's all BS. This country is disgustingly corrupt, and we can't even rely on them to give us accurate economic data anymore. It's pathetic. So let's see what they had to say for this month, which is the first month, of course, of the Trump administration. And we will see if they try to play games in the future. Okay? We will see if they try to play games in the future with how they report this data. Let me get the do I have it? I don't like those other consensus. I like the Econo Day. Most closely resembled what we used to do at People's Pundit. There's the US one. Let me get the consensus. I think this missed the consensus. I'm pretty sure it did. I was more concerned over frankly, I was more concerned over missed the consensus by a little bit. So the consensus range from a low of 125,000 to a high of 225,000. The consensus itself was 168 for the Econo Day calendar, which I like. Again, I don't like the Reuters one alone, the Wall Street Journal one alone, whatever. I like a consensus forecast. It came in close, but it was low, 143,000. Now, last month, they reported it to be 256,000. I'm going to stay I'm going to stick with this for a second because we keep seeing these double revisions that are not consistent. Okay, but we'll see. I don't want to give Trump any credit that maybe he doesn't deserve yet. It's just true. Confidence has exploded under Donald Trump. All right, but it is only February. It's true once he won. It doesn't matter if Joe Biden's still the president in December or January, most of January. It doesn't matter because businesses make decisions based on what they believe the future to be. They're preparing for the future. I do it. I'm a small business owner. Everyone who's a small business owner knows what I'm talking about, and even large business and mid-sized businesses, they know what I'm talking about. So once Trump won, we all knew the economy would very likely get stronger. Sentiment would rise, confidence would rise. That would lead to more consumer spending, more economic activity. So, obviously it's going to influence employment. I just don't want to give him any credit yet that he doesn't yet deserve. All right. Total non-farm payroll employment rose by 143. The unemployment rate edged down to 4%. Right. Job gains still only occurred in healthcare, retail trade, it's a little different, and social assistance. Unemployment declined in mining, quarrying, oil, and gas extraction. This is why I don't want to give anyone any credit for prior revisions. Maybe it was stronger in the month of November or December than we thought. I don't want to do that yet because, as you can see, Trump's energy policy clearly has not taken effect. All right. The unemployment rate edged down. I just said the number of unemployment people at 6.8. They keep saying change a little, but as you will see, that's a slight gain. Major working groups for adult men 3.7, adult women 3.7, teenagers 11.8, whites 3.5, blacks 6.2, which rose off the historical low, which they hit under Donald Trump, which is sad to see, but it happened. Asians 3.7, Hispanics 4.8, also up from it. And they showed little change, right? Long-term unemployed at 1.4. They always say change little, but that's 21.1% of all unemployed people. That's a big number. It's a scary number. The labor force participation, I want to see hit 63%. That is the last time it was 63% since before the Great Recession was under Donald Trump. Right? And that is a sign that the labor market, if we see the unemployment rate declining, but labor force participation still rising, that's the sign of a truly strong labor market. And we should see jobless claims very low, 150, something like that. By the way, I think the jobless claim numbers, weekly jobless claim numbers routinely were at 50-year plus lows under Donald Trump. It was disgusting. We blew it. Anyway, that's what obviously he's trying to get back to now. And a lot of people, which I'm going to show you in a second, seem to believe that that's going to happen. All right, so after accounting for annual adjustments and population controls, the employment population ratio is 60.1. That is a less cited, but arguably more important ratio than the labor force participation rate. It is widely overlooked and very, very important. 5.5 million people want a job in this country, but can't find one. All right. They're not counted as unemployed because they weren't actively looking for work during the 4 weeks anymore. They gave up. All right. So where am I going with this? I just wanted to show you some of where stuff has gone here. As you can see, Joe Biden was killing construction, manufacturing, wholesale trade, transportation, warehousing, information, even financial activities. At the end of Biden's presidency, even professional services were starting to decline. Even leisure and hospitality, which, for God's sake, even Barack Obama had a robust leisure and hospitality sector, all were taking a shit. All right. So the only ones who were making any money under Joe Biden were government contractors, government workers, those who write out checks to people so they can sit on their ass, and healthcare people like Dr. Fauci. That's it. And I wouldn't say financial activities was hurting. These people never hurt. But you know what I mean. There was no real growth. It's just that they were going to have to tolerate, the ungodly amounts of money that they already make. No increases for them. But you could see the working man and the working woman would struggle in an economy like this. Badly. I will be not just next month, but the next 3 months. I think we need all of that data combined with the revisions to tell us where we are going. And I think even more importantly, what the Trump administration should do, what direction they should think to go in. Okay. So for November, it was revised up 49,000. And the change with December was also up 51. With these revisions, unemployment was 100,000 higher for the last 2 months. But behold, okay, because once you see the numbers, you're not going to be impressed. Here is, and don't walk, run, credit to you, okay? Here is the monthly non-farm employment chart. These are the initial readings, the first revision, the second revision, and then the January of 2025 revision that occurred today. I wanted to show you this chart, which I've shown you in the past, because I need you to understand something. They're full of shit. They are full of shit. And you, if past this prologue, can expect there to be a relatively high likelihood that either one, if not both, of those upward revisions will be wiped out as we get to the future. Next 3 months, I cannot wait to see what the next 3 months have to offer. If you go back to January of 2023, it's a new year, man. Democrats riding high. They did better in the midterm than they thought they did. And they had this huge boom, over 500,000 jobs created. Now, and even today, just today, we get yet another almost 40,000 job decline in the revised number. The initial reading of 517, which is still, it's very strong, has been slowly but surely sliced down ever since they initially reported it. The first revision immediately took 13,000 jobs off. The next revision took a whopping 22,000 jobs off. And now we're all the way down to 444,000. You could say, well, Rich, it's still a very strong report. It is. But when you look at that January of 2025 revision column, everything highlighted in yellow is a downward revision. Okay? The difference from the original reading is in the final column, which you can see. I mean, that's a 73,000 job difference. In May of 2023, there was there now. It wasn't initially. Initially, they only revised it down 33,000. But now that we're here, January 2025, it was way worse than that. In the month of May for 2023, it was 112,000 less than initially reported as of right now. I mean, this is crazy. For those of us who have been following this stuff, obviously revisions are very common. But it is not very common to see, look, there's only 4 dating all the way back to January of 2023. There are only 4 months where there weren't significant, not just significant, where there weren't downward revisions. All right, hold on. Yeah, actually, I mean, you can tell, like, in a month like July, for instance, you can see where there actually were upward revisions, like we're seeing this month for the second month, right? And then, as we go further into the future, it gets revised down again. I mean, the difference between their upward revision is 39,000 jobs. When you add this all up, it's disgusting. The labor market was much, much weaker than initially reported. Okay, much weaker. I mean, I mean, the thing, it's just, this is a lot, Laura. This is a lot. I mean, we've seen, some pretty big revisions, but it's not consistent like this. And this is what I want to show you, because I think this is what's interesting. When you look at the economic confidence index, all right, and we'll pull this down, put me up, put this back up, the economic confidence index up. No, Google, you can't access my screen to show my reactions. I know what they're doing. I have that software. You're looking at my facial reactions. Kiss my ass. Don't turn that on FaceTime unless you want them gauging your facial tics. I'm telling you, they're going to do that because I have the technology and have had it for a long time. I use it for Robert all the time. I look at different facial expressions in response to stuff so we can later look for juror cues. All right. If you think Google's not doing that, you're nuts. They are. So if you updated Chrome and you see that little thing, I mean, you want to have fun on FaceTime? Go have fun on FaceTime if it's worth it to you. I don't know why you'd need that. To give that kind of thing up for a stupid little feature? No, thank you. All right. Here's the economic confidence index. And what you can clearly see here is that Americans knew the whole time it was bullshit. They knew the whole time. Americans, in fact, tend to know before the government lets you in on it. You can track the inflationary index, the inflationary sub-indicator, the inflation-related sub-indicator for the index. You can track it. I mean, Americans are ahead of the curve 3-6 months all the time. They knew the CPI was going to crater before, or skyrocket, technically. They knew the CPI was going to skyrocket long before the Bureau of Labor Statistics ever told you about it. They knew the labor market was weaker than was being reported long before the BLS ever issued revisions. Mark Penn famous pollster, Democratic pollster, once said, and I will never forget it, reality always wins. And I have repeated that over my career because I think he's right. I'm not sure Mark Penn has ever said something smarter or more observant in his life. I'm serious because he's right. In 2016, the country was being told this is the new normal and things are good. What's your problem? They didn't believe it. In fact, they didn't believe that things were even as good as they were being told that it was. Hillary Clinton's message fell on deaf ears. Americans said, ah, la, 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 I don't believe you. And they voted for Donald Trump based on economic concerns, largely economic, whether that's even immigration tied or trade tied. These were economic standard of life concerns. This year, same thing. The Biden campaign then turned into a Harris campaign, touted a jobs record stronger than Donald Trump's. The media parroted it constantly. It wasn't true, of course, especially since the final couple of months were definitely Donald Trump's economy, as is typically the case when we change hands in the presidency. And of course, if we didn't have COVID, you wouldn't have been able to slice those jobs off of Donald Trump's record. It would have been unbeatable. Donald Trump actually beat Ronald Reagan, and it was back to back. Ronald Reagan had the record for the most jobs created in a single month, and then he set the second highest record with the following month. Donald Trump beat them both back to back. Or the economy, the American people did it, but it was under Donald Trump, who's an economic cheerleader. And that was Reagan's secret too. That was Reagan's beauty too. He understood something Trump understands as well. Bill Clinton understood it as well. They don't need your ass. You're not that important. Just make them feel good about themselves. Tell them how exceptional they are because they are, and then get the hell out of their way. Don't hinder them. Don't tell them every day there's something that they need to be ashamed of. Don't tell them every day that profit is bad, that innovation is bad, that making sure your family is wealthy is a bad thing. This is the friggin' United States of America. It was built on the Protestant ethic. Sure, you practice frugality, but God wants you to work. God wants you to prosper. That is the Protestant ethic. And Reagan, Bill Clinton even, Donald Trump, they were amazing at harnessing the Protestant ethic, whether you're a Protestant or not, it's irrelevant. That's part of the American identity. They were amazing at harnessing that and just letting it go. And they can't be fooled. The voters can't be fooled. So if past this prologue, it does bode well for the economy. Because as you can see, the current conditions index, which is in red, all right, which is the present situation. We call it the present situation index. Others call it the current situation index, right? That's in red. Obviously, it trended up. It is in positive territory for the first time since Donald Trump was president last time, all right? Or no, did it tick up under Joe Biden briefly? Briefly! It got 0.3 of a percentage point positive under Joe Biden in the summer of 2021. But it hasn't been positive since. At the cost of living crisis, Joe Biden killed the energy sector, Keystone Pipeline was shut down. He did everything anti-Trump to be the anti-Trump. So we got anti-Trump results. A goods producing sector that was non-existent, an energy sector which is non-existent, not non-existent, but weak, and wage growth that was worse than non-existent. It was there, but was so outpaced by the rate of the increase in the rate of inflation that Americans could not keep up with the rising cost of goods, including stapled goods. One of the saddest surveys we ever did was that survey where we asked people about shortages with food and their ability to pay for these products, even if they could find it. It was awful. For you guys have been following me a while, do you remember that survey? We did it a couple of months. You remember that? But meat, poultry, eggs, bread, butter. It's awful. It's the saddest shit I've ever pulled. Anyway, it bodes well because while the present situation index is positive, it is barely positive. It is because of expectations, especially this is to be precise, to be specific. This is a 6-month outlook. How people expect things to be 6 months from now is what is causing things to really heat up. It's what's causing the index to hit 59%, which is the highest it's been since July 7th, 2021, when it was at 57.7. And if you look below, you can see that expectations for total family income, 64.4% positive. Expectations for employment, 68. Current conditions for employment, only 52. So people know the labor market is not great right now. They know it. They knew it before the Bureau of Labor Statistics told them, we lied to you. It's not good. They already knew, which is why they elected Donald Trump. But they think it's going to be, what's that word? Poggers. They think it's going to be totally poggers 6 months from now. Man, I got to take a break already. These shows go quick. I got to tell you, these shows go really quick. All right, let's take our first quick break. And when we come back, there's a clip that I didn't get to play the all of when I was doing it with Robert. And the reason I want to play it again is because it goes to the media and their refusal to recognize something until they absolutely have to recognize it, until the voter forces them to recognize it. And this is tragic. This can't keep up. All right, but before we do, let's get a word from our sponsors, which are our friends over at twc.health. All right, now that Fauci's gotten himself a nice big fat pardon, RFK is going to unearth what most of us already knew about the pandemic. This effort won't help the tens of millions who have already never felt the same after getting the virus or the mRNA shots. We all know someone who has a personal story. Pfizer's been forced, of course, to release this detailed list of side effects associated with COVID-19 shots. Sadly, some of these issues like myocarditis, blood clots, they're creeping up on people in a blink, and they're causing debilitating issues. A less severe but common concern is long COVID syndrome, technically. A condition that leaves people feeling brain fog, fatigue, shortness of breath, lingering for months, if not years. The Wellness Company makes it easier for you with their new long COVID syndrome support. You get 4 formulated nutraceuticals, with 5 to 8 plants and minerals in each bottle that are designed to address the root cause. Ultimate Spike Detox, Mind Lift, Elevated Energy, Healthy Heart. Dr. Peter McCullough recommends a durable recovery through holistic health. Explore targeted solutions like the long COVID syndrome support. Right now, you can save $40 on the bundle and get an additional $23 off with free shipping, plus free shipping, by going to twc.health/TPP. Use the promo code that you just heard, TPP. Again, twc.health/TPP. Use that code, TPP, and get yourself another $10 off. What? Take action today for healthier tomorrow. I really honestly did not know that they threw in that other $10. That must be new. That's due today. That's like today new. So excuse me. So is, by the way, speaking of Totally Poggers, the Totally Poggers website. What? They do it better than I do it. Don't they? Good job, guys. All those medical kits, it's all peace of mind over there. Promo code's the same for everything, by the way. It doesn't matter if you're getting the wellness kits, if you're getting the Spike Detox, Mind Lift, or now long COVID syndrome support. I know a lot of people who have long COVID, especially people who actually got the shot, which is crazy. I'm going to think maybe we're going to find out one day that those two things are connected. I don't know. Oh, should I really walk the line here and show the screenshot? I wonder if Lester will allow me to. Probably not, right? He probably doesn't want me to get him any more trouble, right? Somebody's sending cease and desist letters. Somebody's sending cease. What's the matter? You don't like people calling your ethics into question? What a surprise. What made you think I liked it? Cease and desist. cease and bite me. How about that? All right, let's play the rest of this video from Leave It to Beaver, and we'll be right back.
These numbers are really illuminating on this topic because I just think there's such a clear trend among the American public. So transgender female athletes in women's sports, only 18% of the country says that they should be, in fact, allowed to participate in women's sports. Compare this to the opposition. I mean, my goodness gracious, 79%. You rarely get 79% of the country to agree on anything, but they do, in fact, agree on the idea of opposing transgender female athletes in women's sports. But it's not just the here and now, Laura. It's not just the here and now. What we're actually seeing is a trend on this particular issue, and it's going in the direction of opposition. So take a look here. Okay, transgendered female athletes, and amongst those Americans who oppose them in women's sports, back in 2021, it was 62%. A majority, but, you know, not anywhere close to a ginormous majority, right? A clear majority, but not a ginormous majority. But then again, you look here in 2025, you see it at 79%. So it's not just that the majority of Americans are opposed to transgender female athletes in women's sports. It's that the opposition has become considerably larger in just the last 4 years.
How does this break down across party lines?
Yeah, so, you know, when you get 79% of Americans to agree on anything, in this case, opposition to transgender female athletes in women's sports, you got to believe that it's the majority across all parties, and that's, in fact, what we see. So transgender female athletes, again, opposing them in women's sports.
There's no such thing as a transgender female. There is only a man who is delusional and thinks he's a woman. I'm so sick of hearing this crap. Used to get a Section 8 for that in the Army. Anybody ever watch MASH?
Dang. You get 67% of Democrats, so 2/3 there. You get 64% of independents, so you get about 2/3 there. And then look at this. Near uniformity among Republicans, 94% of Republicans in opposition.
Whoa, well, what do you have here? Almost identical, by the way, to Big Data Poll, who's been showing this for years, even though Ipsos sucks. I'm not going to get into that again, but apparently if you push propaganda polling and you're wrong, you not only get promoted to work with the most subsidized media outlets in the country, but you get even more subsidies for those media outlets. Who knew? Here I thought there was a methodological debate. What a scam. That's going to change my whole tune this tour, this post-election tour, Laura. That's going to change my tune. I think I'm going to have to spend a little less time on the methodological debate and a little bit more time on the ethical one. This has not changed. He's acting like, number one, things are suddenly like this. They have not suddenly turned against the transgender activist movement, the transgender left, who wants to harness mental disability as a civil rights issue. This has been like this in America for years. They have never thought this was a civil rights thing. They've always thought this was an issue of mental health, and it was an issue of fairness, by the way. It's unfair to force a female Olympic boxer to get in the ring with a man who's delusional and says he's a female and watch this woman get pummeled. It's unfair. And it's sick and barbaric. And yet he's still going on and on using their terminology. Transgender female. There's no such thing as a transgender female. There is a delusional man who found a sick, fanatical doctor to mutilate them instead of treat them for their underlying disorder. Yeah, for what? Anyway, for them, many of them to just go on and off themselves anyway. This is why they can't get their act together. This is why the media cannot get their act together. But Harry, man, he's got to act. Look, his boy Nate just got the can, dude. He just got the cane. Exit stage left. And boy, look how friendly they were together. Immediately, he pops up a new poll from his buddy's organization who just fired him, gave him a backseat to Ipsos. He got Gary Langered. He got Langered, folks. That happened to Gary Langer. You don't remember? Langer researched, the longtime pollster for ABC News, who was a live caller pollster, by the way, until he started moving into things like text online and stuff like that. He put out a Trump plus 10 and got fired. You remember that? I think he even got, oh no, the Trump plus 12 never got out. They didn't release it. George had a canary, and ABC News never released that poll. Well, they released parts of the poll. They hid the part that showed Joe Biden getting his you-know-what kicked by 12 points. They bring in Ipsos, who has failed to poll every election from Israel to Great Britain to the United States correctly in like the last 15 years. They partnered with Larry and his tiny crystal balls at the University of Virginia Center for Politics, which, you know what? I haven't searched for them. I wonder if they got anything from USAID or any of Larry's committees he failed to disclose he was a part of. I wonder if they got any money as part of the election consortium payments that you see millions and millions of dollars going to. Anywho, Larry partnered with Ipsos for Texas when they thought that Ted Cruz was going down. Baby, they had Beto banging it. Beto lost. You really cannot make this stuff up. What a loyal friend Harry was, huh? Couldn't wait to do a segment showing the new pollster who just stuck his foot in that you-know-what of his friend. Musical chairs, man. It's a game of musical chairs. Doesn't matter. Never mind that Nate was sitting around going, "You're not even playing any music. Where am I supposed to sit?" Game was rigged against you, Nate, from the beginning, bro. I still got to give the guy credit. I do. I got to give the guy credit. He tried. Ultimately, he did the wrong thing. Barnes is right, because I mean, I'm not saying he deserves it, but Barnes is right. Ultimately, he should have just put out accurate polling. Ultimately, he knew Donald Trump was ahead. Ultimately, he skewed the hell out of his data to give Harris a path to the presidency. And then ultimately, he wrote what effectively was his, like, he didn't know it at the time, his farewell address, telling New York Times readers, you should probably expect Donald Trump to be reelected. But how, Nate? You have her winning. A lot of Trump voters aren't picking up the phone, and our recalled vote is not correct. So we're probably underestimating him again. Here's the kicker, though, folks. Here's the real kicker. As Mark Mitchell and I talked about yesterday on Between the Numbers, it wasn't hard to find Trump voters this time. We did have people, who were concerned about the FBI. We should call the FBI response bias. I don't know. I've never seen anything like it. And yet still, there was a way to make them comfortable enough. It was obvious that she was going to lose. So what does that mean? It means he still screwed the numbers. He still fudged the numbers. He fudged it. Sorry, he did. And by fudge, I mean, a pollster could go in. You guys know. I've showed you the back of market site a million times when we've been conducting polls and processing polls. It's easy to do something underhanded and then claim that that's your right as a pollster to make that assumption, even when you know it's wrong. That's the entire reason why I'm so transparent with the polling we do. I'm trying to show you what people can do. I'm trying to show you how easy it is. And how easy it is to get away with it. Unless you're Ann Seltzer and you go on Mark Halpern and you make the totally incoherent excuse that every other pollster in the industry is listening to and going, what the hell is she talking about? She didn't even use the correct terms. No. Terminology. It was and then you know what could have happened? I could have scared all these Trump voters to go and vote. Yes, and you're so effing important that your poll single-handedly changed the trajectory of the election. Cue the crude hand gesture that I'm not allowed to make on camera, otherwise Laura gets mad. All right, let's let G. Willigers Wally wrap it up. Because we essentially got through what we wanted to say anyway here. Actually, why don't we yeah, I'm just gonna put this up. Thanks for the thanks for the thing. I'll go and check locals too. They are killing it. By the way, you may have noticed that Democrats are pulling a stunt where they are trying to effectively harass members of Doge. I got to tell you guys, this has been something that they have been putting together for days. All right, what do I mean by that? They've been plotting these, like, we've had lobbyists, NGOs, whatever, a ton of people who are impacted by this, ultimately calling Democrats for 2-3 days, telling them, why don't you go down there, and dare them to stop you from going in as an elected public official. Some Democrats were on board immediately, some were not, and some didn't want to do it. So they put together a handful of people who are your typical rabble-rousers who went there and tried to do. Could you imagine if Republicans did this? If a Republican did this, it would be like, oh my God, they're trying, this is an insurrection. Like, I know it didn't get as like rowdy as J6, but I'm saying, actually, yesterday there was an incident which looked pretty rowdy to me. But I mean, they get your usual suspects, the nutcases that Democrats pretend don't have a major leadership role in the Democratic Party until they're elected. And then, as it turns out, these people get committee chairs. E.g., for example, Maxine Waters. Maxine Waters is a lunatic. Maxine Waters, for those of you who don't know, I wish you should have Kurt Schlichter on to talk about her. Maybe we should, because he knows Maxine real well. Kurt had to clean up Maxine's mess all those years ago when she started the LA riots. Yep. Maxine Waters has incited more than one riot in her day. I remember when she was inciting Trayvon Martin's issues, but of course that community held it together. They did not let the likes of Maxine Waters turn their community upside down, and God bless them for it. Long live Florida. But others, unfortunately, were powder kegs, like in Ferguson, and she couldn't keep her big mouth shut, and all it did was result in Black-owned businesses being burned to the ground. You didn't hurt Whitey, Maxine. She's a racist. There's no doubt. She's absolutely a racist. And worse, she's one of these so-called liberal congresswomen who have husbands who make money hand over fist on insider trades they're not supposed to know about. Nancy Pelosi's another one. So let's play this. Here's this. This is what, I mean, when all else fails and Chris Murphy isn't sure and he doesn't know if he wants to pull a stunt like this, because they called Chris too. Right, Chris? Don't lie. You're being so open lately. Don't shut down now. Don't be quiet now. You've had such a big mouth lately. You don't want to tell us all about those phone calls? Anywho, when you can't get Chris Murphy out there because he's like, I think this may be a stupid idea. This may be going a little bit too far. Well, rest assured you'll get Maxine. Here she is, ladies and gentlemen, Maxine, the moron Waters, who a chairwoman of the finance committee who grilled banking executives about their role in student loans when in fact they haven't handled student loans. The government has for years before that interview. This is why we're in the position we're in. Because morons this stupid are actually in charge of policy. She had no idea. What are you doing to fix the student loan debt situation in this country, sir? Congresswoman, you took the power of handling student loans away from us 8 years ago or something. I can't remember how long it had been. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. And all these banking executives are looking at each other like, what the is she talking about? This is why we're in so much trouble. Why don't you put some 80-year-old Republican in charge of overseeing like big tech censorship? I'm sure it's right up their alley too. This woman doesn't know anything about finance aside from calling her broker who's supposed to be running her trust and telling him when to tell her husband and make inside trades. That's as much as she knows about the financial sector. How to cheat it.
Look them in the eye. Come on, hold your face up. Look at him. Let them see you. This is him. Look at it. What's your name? Tell us your name. Give me that ID again. So what?
I showed you the ID.
You do what?
I showed you the ID.
Could you let me see the ID again?
Camera?
No? No? Will someone else ask him for the ID? Will you ask him for it? He won't let me see it again.
Are you retarded? He already showed it to you. What, the camera wasn't rolling? I mean, this is harassment. This is harassment. Someone should have called the police and had her. Yeah. I would have liked to see it. I'm sure the vast majority of America would like to see Maxine Waters dragged away. I do. They don't seem to understand. We're going to fight to keep the money laundering spigot on. And in fact, we're not going to allow Americans to have any of their priorities until we get to money launder again. And let's make the face of it, one of the biggest insider trading crooks in the entire Congress. This is what Democrats' plans are. Maybe this is why their approval rating or their favorability rating as a party is like 32% right now.
You didn't see it. You didn't see it. They didn't see it. Look them in the eye. Come on, hold your face up. Look at him. Let them see you. This is him. Look at it. What's your name?
Look at him. Let him see you. Listen, this is really Democrats. I know we got to go here because I got to go get my kid, but this is really Democrats' strategy. Democrats, the defenders of politicians to money launder everywhere. Democrats, champions of delusional men who beat the shit out of women. This is what they're doing? You've got to be kidding me. Trump should be printing up the banners for this right now. The RNC should be printing up the banners for this right now. I would make campaign signs. Vote Democrat so politicians have the right to launder your money and put the bill on your grandchildren. Vote Democrat so we can go back to beating women. This is what should be all over signs right now. What the hell are you doing? I mean, 212,000 hunters, not on the voter rolls. 212,000. Wait a minute. 211,249 hunter and gun enthusiasts in the state of New Jersey not registered to vote. Yes, sir. Maybe we should print those signs up and make it a little easier. Motivate them to register to vote. I mean, you got to be kidding me with this stuff. All right, folks, don't forget, if you've ever thought about diversifying your portfolio or if you're really just looking for protection for your wealth, the folks at Freedom Gold are definitely the place to go. Definitely the guys to call and to speak to. And by the way, when you do, you'll be thrown into a prize pool. Somebody's going to win free silver, as you all know. That's how we do. Go to freedomgoldusa.com/rich. See what deals you may qualify for. There's a whole bunch of them going right now. They've lowered the minimum buy-in, just $500. That's insane and unheard of. Speaking of $500, you can get a $500 credit for starting a new gold or silver IRA. No matter what deal you take advantage of, you're still going to get free shipping and insurance on every single order. That's nuts. That's nice. That number on the screen that you see right there is the number just for us, but it's always very cool when you see the People's Pundit stunt. 888-279-3592, 888-279-3592. You already know, if you have called them, this is really a place that's all about making sure you have the confidence to make a decision when and if you make one. No hard sell. Love the guys over at Freedom Gold USA. And we gotta have our little chat with them pretty soon. All right, folks, that's it for us today. Don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them and share them far and wide. If you are watching over on YouTube, it would be great if you would mosey on over to Rumble and or Locals and subscribe, sign up there as well. Don't forget, if you are a local supporter or a YouTube member, Book club, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Looks like my daughter's dance schedule got changed around too, so we should be uninterrupted for book club this week. 3 p.m. Sunday, Nations and Identities is the book. It's super important book. We just got done with Rousseau, Montesquieu, before that Locke and Hobbes. Great stuff. We got to hit the basics before we get into the more detailed study of nationalism, nationhood, the nation state. As Donald Trump said, the liberal nation state is still the best system for happiness and prosperity. I'm the People's Pundit. I'm all over Twitter. You can follow me. Links are in the description. Everything we talked about today. Don't forget to support the Public Polling Project. Share it far and wide. That's always great as well. And we'll see you on Sunday, locals. All right. We'll see you before then. I just want to say this before we go. I'm very, very, very proud of my friend Sean Parnell. He is the Deputy Assistant at the Department of Defense for Public Affairs. He is the boss when it deals with the media and public affairs. But I wish him nothing but the best. I know he's going to do a great job, but I don't know about you guys, but I did feel the, what's the word I'm looking for? I felt the absence of Wednesday night, Savage Wednesday on Battleground Live. Can't do it while he is, obviously. You wouldn't have the time for it anyway. So let's just all, keep him, maybe once here and there when you're thinking about it, shoot him a thing on X. Say, hey man, keep your chin up. I hope you're doing good over there. It is the swamp, and it is not an easy job. He's going to do great, no doubt. But let him know you're thinking about him, because he is doing it for the guy's a servant. The guy's a servant.
It's okay. Maybe we'll do.
Couldn't have picked a better person. Like you guys. I thought. And Sean thought, wouldn't it be great if Laura and Melanie did Battleground? And they changed the name just for now. Battleground Babes. Live at 5. What do you think? Melanie and Laura. Oh, I think they'd kill it. I think they'd kill us. It'd be great. I think you'd give the Dilly Meme team a ton of material. I also think you'd probably smoke me in views. There's no doubt about it, because you guys are much better looking than us. That's for damn sure. And you're going to be very entertaining. I'm going to keep pushing this idea, so stay tuned. All right, I'm going to go get my kid. My kiddies. Enjoy kindergarten while it lasts. None but love for you. And as Laura likes to say, deuces. And from now on, beep, beep, beep. That's all, folks. I am keeping this up for the first. Later, guys. Have a safe weekend. Thanks for watching.